Hi, welcome back to Busch History. My name is David Busch, and this series of YouTube events, if you like, seeks to chronicle American history, modeling itself after the College Board curriculum as part of AP US History. However, you can use these YouTube presentations to study American history at any level and take from them what you need. Anyway, this topic is going to be topic 13.2, which is a series of questions and answers about the Reconstruction time period from 1865 to 1877. 13.1 was an overview discussion about Reconstruction. You can find this information if you want. You can find these questions at www.buschhistory.net. It's going to be topic 13.2, and it's a question and answer, a series of questions and answers about the Reconstruction time period. These questions, or I should say, the use of information in these questions is based on Farragher's Out of Many, and this is chapter 17. You can use any textbook for this. It's simply the Reconstruction time period, but that's the book I use as a guide to kind of keep me organized as I'm going through things. So let's take a look. What were the numbers of killed and wounded in both the North and South? What accounts for the difference? Well, the Union was about 360,000 killed, about 275,000 wounded. The Confederacy, about 260,000 killed and about 190,000 wounded. And the difference simply being was that the North had more. There were more soldiers, and then Grant's tactics were to keep on charging, keep on attacking. And if you're going to use that kind of tactic, you're going to use more soldiers. It's brutal and it's bloody. It's a war of attrition. The North could lose more because it had more, so it used more and more died. How the Civil War settled the issue of federal power basically proved that federal power is supreme over state power. That was what the war was all about. The southern states wanted their state governments to have autonomy compared to federal rules and regulations and the Constitution. And the federal government did not want that. Abraham Lincoln did not want that. He thought that we had a federal system and states were subordinate to the federal government, and the Civil War proves that. Or proves might makes right, and it makes the point anyway. The extent of the destruction in the South. Describe the extent of that destruction. It was total. It was total. Remember, the South was fighting a defensive war, which meant most of the battles were fought on southern soil. The furthest that the Confederacy ever got was Gettysburg in Pennsylvania. Didn't get any further north than that. So the North was largely untouched. And the North waged a war of total destruction on the South. The infrastructure was destroyed. The agricultural land was destroyed. Richmond, Atlanta, Columbia, and Savannah were destroyed as well. Farm values were destroyed. And people like people like William Tecumseh Sherman poured salt on the ground to destroy the agricultural use of the ground for years to come, and burned everything they came across. It was total destruction. The South was devastated. The 10% plan, Lincoln's 10% plan. Pretty basic idea. 10% of the state voters, and that was based on the 1860 election, had to take an oath of allegiance, and the states had to approve the 13th Amendment. And when they did, they could apply for readmission to the Union, and the Congress of the United States would accept them back into the Union. Of course, that plan was never actually adopted exactly that way because Lincoln was killed before it could be. The Wade-Davis bill. This was the radical Republican plan put forth in Congress and largely instituted after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, because Andrew Johnson ran into all kinds of problems. It called for a 50% vote in the southern states. That 50% of the people who voted in the 1860 election had to swear allegiance and affirm the 13th Amendment. And it also called for a military occupation of the South. How were President Lincoln's intentions and President Johnson's actions similar? Both were conciliatory. Both wanted to bring the South back into the fold with as little punitive measure as possible. The problem was Lincoln could pull that off, Johnson could not. Johnson was not trusted by either side. To the South, Johnson was a traitor. To the North, Johnson was a Southerner. So neither side trusted Andrew Johnson. Number 8, what was the underlying theme to radical Republicans' idea Radical Republicans' ideas on Reconstruction. They were punitive. They wanted to destroy the Southern aristocracy, and they wanted to make the South into a model of the North. The Tenure of Office Act, how did it lead to Andrew Johnson's impeachment? Well, the Tenure of Office Act was put in place by the Radical Republicans over Andrew Johnson's veto. It was to protect Edwin Stanton. Edwin Stanton was the Secretary of War, and he was overseeing the military reconstruction of the South. Congress goes into adjournment, as they do periodically throughout the year, to go back to their home districts to meet with their constituents. Probably have parties and dinner as well. And Andrew Johnson fires Edwin Stanton. When he fires Edwin Stanton, Congress is going to come back and they are going to vote to impeach Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson is actually impeached. So the impeachment of Andrew Johnson leads to the trial of Andrew Johnson. When a president is impeached, he is put on trial in the Senate. He does not lose his job. He needs to be found guilty. An impeachment is a trial in the Senate. That's what it means. 2 presidents in American history have been impeached. Andrew Johnson, William Jefferson Clinton. Both of them survived the trial and finished out their terms. Anyway, he survived the verdict by 1 vote in the Senate. How did the passing of the Reconstruction Amendments, particularly the 14th and 15th, affect women's suffrage leaders? They are angry. They are angry because neither one specifically addressed women. Women had fought for abolition. They fought for the rights of black society in the United States, and then the 2 amendments snubbed them. It is really, really going to be a tough pill to swallow. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony opposed the 15th Amendment, and that caused a split in the women's suffrage movement that will remain all the way up until the 19th Amendment is actually ratified in 1920. A series of terms we should be familiar with. Freedmen's Bureau, simply the bureau that was set up to administer to the needs of the freed slaves. Housing, education, and health care. Set up ipso facto segregation, because those were the only needs the Freedmen's Bureau was attending to, and only for blacks in the South. And the Freedmen's Bureau was run by, you guessed it, whites. Black codes, they were local customs for the restriction of the movement of former slaves and what they could and could not do. 13th Amendment, free slaves. 14th Amendment, make slaves citizens of the United States. The Radical Republicans was the group in Congress. They were the group in Congress that was overseeing Reconstruction. They were very much against any conciliatory nations, and they sought to punish the South. Waving the bloody shirt. Waving the bloody shirt was refers to a dramatic idea used in Congress of the day where both sides, the Republicans and the Democrats, would pick up a shirt supposedly dripped in blood, probably not, and talk about the blood of the martyrs who died in the Civil War for a cause. So a Republican or a Democrat, most of the Republicans trying to make a political point, would pick up a shirt and wave in his hand and say, this shirt bears the blood of people who fought for our cause. Hence, waving the bloody shirt is a dramatic effort in Congress. The first Reconstruction Act was the idea that we would occupy the South with Northern troops. Moving along, the Tenure of Office Act. Tenure of Office Act was the law that was put in place by the Radicals to protect Edwin Stanton from Andrew Johnson, and we know that led to the whole Johnson impeachment. And the Ku Klux Klan was a group of Southern Democrats who got together to terrorize former slaves. The former slaves, the freedmen if you like, believed that the sheets that they wore, that these were ghosts in these sheets, and they were ghosts of Confederate soldiers. And finally, the 15th Amendment in 1870 gave all persons, all males born in the United States, the right to vote, and that divided the women's suffrage movement. It specifically let women out of it, and it is part of the group of 3 Reconstruction Amendments. You have to know those 3 Reconstruction Amendments that are all connected. 13th Amendment frees the slaves. Well, if they're free, what are they? 14th Amendment makes them citizens. Well, if they're citizens, what right do they have? The 15th Amendment gives them the right to vote. 13th Amendment frees the slaves. 14th Amendment gives the slaves the right of citizenship. The 15th Amendment gives citizens, all citizens born in the United States, the right to vote. Henceforth, the former slaves now have the right to vote. And they can vote for Republican for the most part. This will conclude this segment on Bush history. This is topic 13.2. It's a series of questions and answers based on Farragher's Chapter 17 out of many and the Reconstruction time period in American history. The next topic number 14, will deal with further westward expansion, post-Civil War, and things like the Railroad and Homestead Act and stuff like that. So until then, have a great day. This is David Busch for Busch History. Take care. Bye.